Welcome, everyone, to Around the ACL. It's Michelle Thompson here with Trey Ryder and Anthony Ione. We are getting into the heart of the season. We had an awesome event that happened this past weekend in Fort Worth, Texas, and we have our big second national coming up this weekend. Lots of stuff to get into. Don't want to waste any time. Super bummed I couldn't make it there with you guys. Got like a summer cold or whatever. It's like 90-something degrees here, so it feels like summer. So unfortunately wasn't able to make it, but looked like it was a good time.
Yeah, it was. It was a great time. The batch of celebrities we had were kind of one of the more energetic groups, and they all had a great time. It was a lot of fun, and it was quick. It was like almost refreshingly quick for an event. Like
Yep.
even though it was a full day like Miami, I felt like Miami was 3 days for me, and this one felt like 12 hours. It was like, oh, all right, do this in, out, good, go home the next day. It was just, I don't know. It was a cool vibe to Fort Worth. So we had a good time.
Nice. Let's actually get into that. So we had that SuperHole with a lot of great celebrities, AJ Sims and Paige Hathaway take the win there. So congratulations to them. I didn't get to watch it yet. Was Paige pretty good?
She boarded a lot. Like
Okay.
so she put everything on the board, but we just posted it on social media. The key to the entire thing was Jackson was the better player. I'll straight up say that, right? But in round 7 of 10, it was a close game, right? It was a 1-point game or whatever it was, and Paige hit an and one.
I saw that.
The place went bananas.
Yeah. It was like I was asking Nick. I said, "Do you think that was intentional?" And I was like, "It was open board, so I doubt it was intentional." I don't know unless
it wasn't intentional, but like it was still incredible, and she went crazy, and that like I think completely shell shocked like Deb Odom and Jackson Olsen to the point where they couldn't focus. I mean, it was for them to we've never had that's the first and one in the history of SuperHole. Never before have we seen an and one in SuperHole. So
what a stat for her.
Yeah, I mean, she had a great time with it. It was so fun to watch her experience that. But yeah, no, I mean, she was kind of a knuckleballer, but it wasn't really a knuckleball to where the point like where some people they bunch it up, you don't really know how much it's going to rotate. It was like one of those things where the way she threw it and the way she arced it, she was getting a consistent backwards rotation, the same every time. So it was actually pretty predictable. And because it didn't rotate side to side, it only flipped this way. Pretty much every time wherever she landed, it slid pretty much like it was a slide shot. So even though she wasn't spinning the bag, she had enough technique that it kind of kept everything on the board around the hole. And so she was decent.
Interesting. All right. Along with SuperHole, we also had our shootout finals. Men's singles, Chris Kingsbury took the win there. Women's singles, Lori Dool, and doubles, Cody Henderson and Adam Hisner. Anthony, what a weekend for Cody Henderson.
Yeah, Cody Henderson came back, right? And we were talking about it on the broadcast. If you go back to 17-18, he was a constant presence on the broadcast. He was the 2018 Player of the Year. He had a national win back in that time with Adam. So, he was constantly on the broadcast. And then the last couple years, not much of anything, right? Cody's kind of been non-existent as far as that deep into the bracket, specifically on TV. So for him to come back out and go and get on TV in both singles and doubles kind of shocked me. I don't know. What were your thoughts, Trey? I was surprised. I got to be honest. I was surprised that he pulled that off. What were your thoughts on that kind of double dip on TV, Trey?
I was surprised, but we did get a taste of this in Winter Haven. I mean, if you think back to Winter Haven, that was arguably number 1 or number 2 most loaded opens that we've seen thus far. And remember, Cody made it all the way to the final 8 of that. He won his bracket, then goes on, and I believe his only loss was to Mark Richards or something like that, and it was a close one. So we got a little bit of a taste of that. Now, I was still very, very surprised, but the game that Cody played all day long was exactly what you want out of Cody Henderson. In games that he won the mental game so much. In games that he was throwing really well, he didn't really need to do much. He was putting a lot of bags in the hole. He had a high PPR, really excelled against certain players. And then if there was an instance in which he got down to somebody, that's when the chirping started. I mean, he talked his way into a win against Logan Chamberlain. He was down like 13-5 against Logan Chamberlain, then even down 4 points going into the last round. And when Logan was chirping back and it was going back and forth, Cody found that if I could get him to stop talking because of my play and me start throwing really well, that's when I win. And that's what happened. They were talk until Cody started getting some points. And towards the end, in the last round, you couldn't hear Logan say anything. And Cody just knew if I kept building on top of this, and it wasn't personal, but it was more like, go get it. I'm going to win, like things that were meant to kind of throw off Chamberlain, and it worked. And Cody scored 4 in the last round against Chamberlain to force overtime, and then won the next round in overtime. So I couldn't believe the level of consistency that I saw all day long from Cody in both singles and in doubles. And he literally talked his way into a number of different wins. So he didn't get the sweep, but for him to go 50% on finals is still an incredible feat. And that's got to be a win for everybody. But Cody made a good point. He's like, if I get to this situation, he said this before the broadcast, I have got to take advantage, because I said this 2 years ago. I said it 4 years ago, and it's still true today. As you sit here and talk to me, from this point forward, it will never be this easy to make a broadcast and to get a win. It will never be as easy in the future as it will be right now. So if I get this opportunity, I absolutely have to seize it. And it's a fantastic point, because so many times, we put our heads together and talk in this show about how, well, they'll be back. Oh, they'll get another one. Oh, they'll have another opportunity. And Cody knows better than most that sometimes that's not the case. Sometimes it's really, this is your last shot. You may never get back to that podium ever again.
Yeah, I think you said it right. You said he willed himself to a win. Just his run through the singles. So his path, he gets Tubby Cobb in round 1. Hunter Thorne, he's down. It's Hunter Thorne's to win in round 2. And remember, this is one and done. So these players are coming all the way out here. Single elimination in his second game. He's done. It's done. Hunter Thorne had to make a lot of mistakes, and Cody needed to make like a miracle shot, and both happened. He had this ridiculous collect left to right. As a right-hander, we know how difficult that is. He hits the collect. I was like, he's done. He pulled it off. It's Cody. So he throws the bag. He's yelling at the bag as it's going across, and the bag did exactly what he told him to do. And then Hunter Thorne made a couple mistakes at the end, pulled that one out at the end. He goes through a Nate Voyer in round 3. Nate actually rattled off a couple decent wins for him. I'll give him that. You mentioned the Logan Chamberlain match. He was down, came back from that one, and then had to get through Matthew Creekkiller to get to the broadcast. And one of the things that kind of blew me away when he got that win, he yells out and he's like, "I'm not even playing and I can win." And I'm like, what does that mean? So we're talking to him after. The guy hasn't thrown a bag since Corpus Christi. That was 5 weeks ago. So I'm sitting there going, how the hell does this guy come out of here? And that's why I was surprised, Trey, because it's like you see all these players, you see him in regionals, locals, all these other tournaments, holding up number 1. So you're kind of keeping track of all this history. Nothing from Cody Henderson. For him to come out and win both singles and doubles just kind of blew my mind. But he ends up playing Chris Kingsbury in the final. He was the number 1 seed coming out of rounders. Kingsbury is throwing really, really well. Look at his run. He goes through Adam Hissner. Round 1, you got to pull Adam Hissner. We know Adam's kind of a bit of an expert in this format. He is a champ in the singles format. Gets through him, Gets through Jaime Sanchez, who also had a good win under his belt. I'll give another credit to Jaime. He goes through Ethan Walker, and then he pulls Mark Richards to get to the broadcast. He goes up 6-0 on Mark Richards in the third round. He doesn't score a single point throughout the rest of the game. So that's 7 rounds of just holding Richards to less than 6 points. Richards made a run. He put up 5, but it was Kingsbury that willed himself to a win there. And then you get to the finals. We're on the broadcast. Kingsbury came out cold. Those first 3 rounds, he was missing. Just for him, they were layup shots, things that he had been doing all day to get there. And then he flipped a switch. He got in his comfort zone. He went on 6 straight 4-baggers in a row to win that. And Cody was right there with him. I mean, Cody was just making these tiny little mistakes. It was a really, really close game, but ultimately Kingsbury taking down that shootout number 4. So that game was interesting. That game was real interesting.
Yeah,
he ended up hitting. Go ahead, Michelle.
I'm looking forward to watching it. That's all I was going to say.
Yeah, he hit 27 in a row in that middle part of the game, or second half of the game. So you're right. He started off shaky, but then didn't miss. Just could not miss for forever. The rest of the game, really, until they got to that last round, and Cody was forcing a block like he needed to and put himself in position to come back. But 27 in a row is not easy to do on a broadcast court.
Yeah, and that would have been his first broadcast, unless he squeaked in on a Teams event somewhere already. I think that was his breakout TV broadcast. So maybe the first couple rounds he was just trying to get used to what was going on around him. But then when he locked in, it was nasty, which kind of leads to the women's, because we saw the same thing in women's. We had 18 pros out there competing. Lori Duell gets to the TV broadcast. Here's her path. She's got a bye in round 1 as a number 2 seed, gets Fillingham, Odom, Kaylee Hunter. And then you have Elizabeth Tennyson, also her first broadcast. She comes in as a number 5 seed. She gets Cup, big win against Cassidy in round 2. And then she gets Pratt to get to the final. In that Cup match, check this out. She was down 7-5. She scored 3 points in the last round to get through that. So she essentially could have come all the way out there. Cup was her first match. If she doesn't get those 3 points in the last round, she doesn't go all the way to TV. And look at this, that loss for Cup. She throws a 10-6-7 and loses. So a Tennyson who's completely off radar. She comes in as a rookie, makes it all the way to the TV broadcast, throws a 10-7-5 over 12 rounds. That is elite level play. I mean, I'd seen the name Tennyson 100 times on paper, but to actually see her run, beautiful bag, and she was super, super comfortable on the broadcast. So props to her. And if you look at if you break down the final, this was interesting as well. Duell versus Tennyson. It came down to 1 bag. That was the difference. Both ladies put 34 of 40 bags in the hole. They were both 1 bag away from an 11-0 on TV. That 1 bag, Tennyson's 1 bag was on the floor. Duell's 1 bag was on the board. That was the difference in the match. 1 on the floor, 1 on the board. So close in that finals between them two.
Interesting, though, because if Tennyson plays like that in the next shootout, she could steal a spot.
Oh, yeah.
And that's crazy.
She threw a 10-7 in the final and lost.
Yes.
I mean, it wasn't like she, and that's what I said when she came off. I talked to her because I wasn't on air, so I was just talking to her. I said, I know your initial reaction is you're going to be mad, you're going to be upset, blah blah blah. Totally, you'll have that. But I just want to say, if I had told you before you got on the broadcast that you'd throw a 10-7, would you be happy with it? And she's like, not if I was going to lose. But I said, good point. But I understand the fact that you're a rookie. Nobody pegs you to be where you are right now. And you throw a 10-7 on the broadcast. I know moral victories don't count for anything, but to me, that was a big sign that, like, Tennyson may be that next female that's ready to join that next elite group. Because if she can throw like that, there's not many people
under pressure.
Anybody that can under pressure throw at that level, right? It's one thing to do it in rounders. It's another maybe to do it in round 1, but to do it on that broadcast court in that situation, I was highly impressed with what I saw from Tennyson.
Agreed. Hey, Nicole Pratt was right there, you guys. my
She
crazy
was.
call.
Yeah,
So,
it was. It was. I thought. I even said. I don't know if I said to Anthony or I said to Wally. I said, I think Michelle took Nicole Pratt as her hot take, and I was like looking through, and Nicole kept winning and winning and winning, and I was like, man, Michelle might be a genius over here. I was really impressed by Nicole. So
I've seen Nicole throw high 10s and 11s, so that's why I was like, she can do it. It's just, can she do it under pressure? Anthony, you're muted. We can't hear you. I don't know if that's intentional.
Can you hear me
You
now?
don't want to hear you. Yeah.
Have you heard me? Have you heard me yet? The show.
Yeah, we have.
Yeah, yes.
Okay,
Yes.
that's good. That's good. Hey, speaking of hot takes, so in my hot take, just real quick on doubles. So Connell Hamilton was my hot take to come back, get some redemption coming off of that shootout too, where they lost to Maudlin and Bubenheim. They looked good until they got to the final. They came out hot. They get dual Coy 21-4. Turpin Franklin, we saw what they did at national number 1. They get them 21-3. So they actually get that one to 21. Lopez Richards 13-5. So they're rolling in hot. They were down 8-0 to get to TV against Wooten and Kingfisher in round 8. I mean, to score 9 points, because you got to get one more, to score 9 points in 4 rounds is tough. They go on a 12, they get 12 points in those last 4 rounds. That's what gets them to TV.
An 8 spot. It was
8 spot. From,
Ooh.
I think it was from Kingfisher, who looked really good. I talked a little bit about Kingfisher all the way back in like October, just seeing him, what he did through the qualifier and getting to know his bag a little bit. The dude has a legit bag. I think he could be a force to reckon with, but gave up an 8. He was that close to TV with Wooten. And then on the other side of the bracket, we talked about Cody and Adam. They go through Zockline Halbert, Ruben Power, and a super close one to Burton Chamberlain. So there was that, remember that shit talking in singles. Now you run into him again in doubles. I don't think Chamberlain said much in that doubles match.
He didn't say a word. He didn't say, and I remember during that match, Cody a few times as he's getting ready to throw a bag, he looked over at Chamberlain. He's like, "What? You don't want to talk now?" I mean, he just poured it on. Playing. And I saw Chamberlain afterwards in the stands, like watching the broadcast. He looked like he looked like his dog just died. I mean, he was just the whole time just head in his hand. I mean, you could tell it was eating him alive. Only other comment I'll make, I know we got to move on, but is a quick single buy or sell for you, Anthony. Fisher Hamilton has a broadcast performance problem right now.
I'm buying. We saw what happened on the teams event. That one was really tough. And then he was the one that kind of choked. He kind of sold in the doubles match against Bubenheim and Maudlin. And then he wasn't he wasn't too bad in the last one. I feel like he's improving, but it definitely wasn't the Hamilton that we see getting to the team.
He's not peaking. Like, you got to peak on the broadcast. You got to hit your ceiling. You can't be flooring.
There's no doubt that Fisher Hamilton is a top 5 to 8 player, 10 player in the world right now. If depending on who you ask, but for him, maybe not. But you get what I'm saying. Elite level player, but it's like he's doing it all the way up until the broadcast, which is just worrying me just a hair.
Just a hair.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, we do have to move on. We have our big event coming up this weekend in Erie, Pennsylvania. And the first event is our pro doubles that we're going to talk about. That's going to be on ACL Cornhole TV at 2 p.m. Eastern on Friday, May 19th. The final airs live on ESPN3 Saturday, May 20th at 8 p.m. Eastern. We're going to quickly go through the brackets, but we do cover them in more detail in ACL Live on Monday nights. But Trey, quick thought on bracket A. What do you got?
Yeah, bracket A, it's going to be your top seed, your Logan Chamberlain and Justin Burton Jr. for pro doubles. Interesting to note, though, Jamie Graham and Matt Guy as the 8th seed are not only in the same bracket, they're in the same top left quadrant. So this is an opportunity for Graham and Guy, I can't believe I'm saying this out loud, to make a statement against the rookies, Logan Chamberlain and Justin Burton Jr., that they still are that doesn't make sense saying out loud, but it's the truth. Graham and Guy, opportunity to kind of put their stamp on and say, hey, rookies, we're still the top dog.
Absolutely. Anthony, what are your thoughts on A?
Yeah, my thoughts are I like the right side better than the left side. I like the 2 seed better than the 1 seed. I'm Kano and Hamilton sitting there going, I like being the 2 seed here. One, they don't have to take the number 1 team coming out of the PDC. We know that could jack up brackets. They don't have Jamie Graham and Matt Guy in their 3rd match. They don't have that. And they don't have Harbaugh and Morales. Sorry, Ferreira and Johnson. You get Harbaugh and Morales coming in as a brand new team, basically 0 points, so they get the bottom seed. I really like the number 2 seed in the right side way better.
Hey, sneaky, don't forget about Jack and Jake Gore down there in the bottom left-hand corner of the bracket either.
Also not a fun
for
side.
The number 1 seed.
Not a fun side. All right, Trey, B, what do you got?
So B bracket, number 1 seed goes to Jeremy Schermerhorn and Joe Niestedt for the most part, assuming, if I get the Nate Voyer that I got in Fort Worth, we didn't talk about Nate Voyer, but Nate Voyer had a nice little run in Fort Worth. If that Nate Voyer pairs up with a top Josh Holland, that's a different story, but I do like the path for Schermerhorn and Niestedt, at least on that left side of the bracket. Kingfisher and Suprenant, though, I think on that left side in the bottom section could give them a little bit of run. On the right side, Malone and Humans, Birchfield and Rawls, to me, flip a coin between those two, who the favorite would be on that side.
Anthony?
Yeah, I agree with everything you say on the left side. Schermerhorn, Niestedt in pretty good position. Who's going to really challenge them in the beginning in the top quadrant? You got a Labrador Williams. You mentioned Holland Voyer. I think that's going to be their biggest competition. If you look in the bottom of that left side, essentially who they would run into in the semis. Also, it looks pretty good for them. I mean, Suprenant Kingfisher, someone out of the, West, maybe Parent Valdivia show up. Sims and Sanchez showing improvement. Nothing scary, though. I think it's theirs to lose. And if we go over to the right side, again, sorry, Malone and William and Humans, you get Bernasette and King. Another new partnership. That's unfortunate for them to pull Bernasette and King in the first match. It's still a match they can win. It's still a match they can win, but they're going to get a lot of resistance out of the beginning. You got down on the bottom, you got Birchfield Rawls down in there as well, and then Wooten Thorn. So this is a little bit tougher bracket for me. Unfortunately, Humans and Malone with the number 2 seed, I think they have a tough run to get to the finals.
Moving on to bracket C.
Yeah, Pro Doubles C, the top left quadrant is brutal. So when I talk about Ryan Smith and Ryan Wiedenfeld, I love that team, and I feel bad for them about their path. They're going to have to play a team out of the PDC, which could be good or bad depending on how it comes out. But then they probably have to play Alan Rawls and Chris Kingsbury with how they've both been throwing recently. Yep. And then after that, they probably have to play Ryan Windsor and Alex Hicks, and that's just to get out of their quadrant. That's not even talking about going through the whole thing. So odds would tell me that Wiedenfeld and Smith probably can't have the same level of success. Oh, by the way, if they win that, maybe the world champs down in the bottom left-hand corner, they're going to play on their half of the bracket with Jay Rubin, Jordan Power. I'd much rather be on the right side of the bracket. To me, that's Philip Lopez and Mark Richards. My sneaky pick for doubles, though, I do like Eddie Grindersleeve and Caleb Batts, and I think they could really come out and have a good run here.
Yeah, Anthony, what do you think?
Only thing I can add to that was pretty much on point. I like your sneaky pick, Grindersleeve and Batts, and national number 1. They were the undefeated team coming out of Rounders. So they went completely through Rounders undefeated. If they can redo that, we see them deep in the bracket again.
Last one for doubles, bracket D. Trey, start us off.
Yeah, Turpin and Franklin are your number 1 seed here. I think they'll have a good run. They do have Foreman and Creek Killer kind of hanging around in that top left quadrant. To me, that's someone to look out for. Bottom left-hand section, though, you got Adam Hissner and Cody Henderson. We know what they just did. So my outlook for them looks a lot more positive. And to be honest, if they threw like they threw last weekend, in my mind, this should be their side of the bracket. On the left-hand side, you do have Guy and Davis down there that could play a little bit of a ruining, but Zockline and Halbert, top right, we know how consistent they can be. Sometimes we get some up and down. My favorite team in this bracket, I love Tony Smith and Jacob Trzynski down there in the bottom right. I like both their path in the bottom right. I like getting some momentum to eventually play Zockline and Halbert, in which your play style is going to favor, is going to be in your favor. And then to finish it off in the finals, you're going to have to go through a battle-tested Hissner and Henderson or Turpin and Franklin. So I like Smith and Trzynski here.
All right, Anthony, anything to add there?
Yeah, this is a winnable bracket. I'm not going to say this is the easiest bracket, but just looking for against Tony Smith and Trzynski, who's going to really challenge him in this bracket. I think that bottom quadrant, there's no reason they should lose in that bottom quadrant. That means they're going to run into either Zockline and Halbert, or, I mean, can an Anderson and Jonas sneak out an upset against Zockline and Halbert? And if so, then you got Smith and Trzynski. I think they're a clear team coming out of the right side. And left side is looking good for Turpin and Franklin to make another run at a national. The first one was unexpected. This one not so unexpected. I like them to make a deep run here in bracket D.
All right. Well, so we'll have to wait and see this weekend. Next up, news around the league. We have the California State Championship. Our singles winner was Spencer Fabianar. Doubles, Ty Morris and Spencer Fabianar. Those guys were battling it out in everything they played in. So great wins for them. Indiana State Championship singles, Dan Glukuski, I think that's how we say that one. Doubles, Cole Brewer and Tony Mayball. And there's some new transactions for the Florida Freeze. Tanisha Lashley and Tony Hughes get added to the team, and Emery Parker and Draven Sneed are dropped. Any quick thoughts on the news around the league, Trey?
Yeah, quick thoughts. Florida Freeze. Tanisha Lashley stuck out to me as one of those players that I think there was some, I hate to say, I think there's some female bias there that she wasn't already on a team. I think she's a really strong player. I think she's got a lot of high upside, and I think she can make that team better right out of the gate by dropping Draven Sneed.
Anthony, anything to add on any of the news around the league?
Not much. A lot of names, a lot of new names there. I mean, you talk about a California State Championship. Ty Morris, I recognize, never seen him play, but who's Spencer? So I'd like to know who was in that tournament. Was it on top of a shootout, or was it on top of some big event where, you know, some of the big hitters didn't get in there? But congrats to them either way.
Those are probably a couple of our best players in California, in Northern California at least. I can't speak for Southern, obviously, but in Northern California, those are our big hitters.
How does Spencer measure up against a Labrador or a Parent or a Williams?
He's a young kid, so you're just different play style.
Or a Brunson? You think that he's better than those guys?
Brunson and him are right, neck and neck.
Oh, okay.
I think, and same with Frisch. They're all right there around the same level.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, Morris and Spencer.
Same
and all
style
those
play?
guys. Yes, all young. Yep.
Love it.
So not super surprising for us, but like I said, I don't know what Southern California was bringing to the table.
Right.
All right, moving into our singles matches coming up this weekend. It's going to be on ACL Cornhole TV at noon Eastern on Saturday, May 20th. The finals air live on ESPN3 Saturday, May 20th at 8 p.m. Anthony, why don't we have you start us off here for singles in Bracket A?
Okay, I'm just looking at this one live here. So this is going to be Justin Burtons Jr., obviously the #1 seed, your reigning national champ. If I'm looking even just at the top half, who's going to challenge him a little bit? We got a Carson Getty who's shown a lot of early talent. I think that he's going to be the biggest test for Burton Jr., but you also got a Kano in there in that one as well. I kind of like, actually, and maybe I'm just being a little biased, I would love a Burton Jr. Gavin Kano battle for the top quadrant of that one. That one would be awesome. The bottom side, same type of player. You got a Jacob Trzynski. So I'm feeling like, just looking down the list, the favorites, in my opinion, in the whole left side are going to bring that dirty kind of roll style game, a little bit more shot selection, a little bit more IQ, if you will. Yeah, I don't see anyone that's going to challenge Trzynski there in the bottom half. I'll just talk to the left side. You got anything in the right there, Trey?
Yeah, only comment I was going to make is, after looking through all this, you have Joe Nista in the top right. So as far as MVP candidates go, like I've said before, he's #2 on my ballot behind Justin Burton Jr. Nico Morellis also living here on the right side. Frank Maudlin, who has had some odd success against Justin Burton Jr., but to me, I think you hit the nail on the head, Anthony. To me, this feels like Justin Burton Jr.'s bracket to lose. And if it's anybody that's going to get in his way, if I have to pick one person, I'll actually go with someone that's got a ton of experience playing with him in Gavin Kano.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Anthony, what about Bracket B?
Devin Harbaugh. This is his bracket in the top left. Eddie Grindersleeve up there. I think he's going to be the biggest challenge for him in that top 8th. I guess that would be your quarter final, if you will. Philip Lopez just hasn't seen himself lately, more in doubles. I feel like he's doing better in singles than doubles, but a little something weird going on in doubles. He's going to be the top seed in the other 8th of that. So to challenge him, I actually like Ryan Windsor the most. So that would be Devin Harbaugh versus Ryan Windsor to get out of the top quadrant. AJ Sims is going to be the highest seed in the bottom quadrant there. Fisher Hamilton down there. Maybe a Jimmy McGuffin gets hot. I like AJ Sims versus Fisher Hamilton. Devin Harbaugh versus Fisher Hamilton to come out of the left side, I think, Trey.
Yeah, looking over at the right.
I love Devin Harbaugh, but his path is shaping up to be top PDC player or a PDC player, right? Eddie Grindersleeve, Eric Davis, Philip Lopez or Ryan Windsor, AJ Sims or Fisher Hamilton, and then Alex Rawls or Cheyenne Bubenheim. I mean, that is brutal. I mean, absolute brutal. So if I look on this right-hand side, yeah, Alex Rawls, he's going to be the favorite. I'll probably have to play his partner in the second game, more than likely. Jimmy Humans is over there. Jay Rubin is over there. Cheyenne Bubenheim, I actually like her path, but she will run into Tony Smith eventually as it looks at it. This one seems a little bit more coin flip. I mean, I could go a bunch of different directions here, Anthony. Ultimately, I really like how Tony Smith has been playing. He's been playing at a high level. So if he can get past Cheyenne, I kind of like him anybody against in that bottom section. And then it's really just going to be about winning the close games.
I agree with the left side being brutal. I think Devin Harbaugh is so good right now. If it was any other player, I'd say left side is brutal. For some reason, I think he's going to make it all the way, win this bracket, and win the whole national easily.
For some reason.
Something tells me he's going to roll this national all the way to the end.
Wow.
Little resistance.
I don't have him. I got a hot take coming out. I'm taking singles and doubles in my hot take, so I won't spoil it, but I do not have Harbaugh getting out of this bracket.
Well, he's not coming. He's coming with some big dad energy. Brand new dad, baby at home.
True.
Let's go. All right, Anthony, looking at bracket C.
Bracket C, Alan Rawls' bracket. Let's get that right. Man, is he throwing so good right now. You know, we've been saying Alex Rawls for so long, and then we got Alan Rawls as a number 1 seed. He's going to have to get through a Ryan Smith or a Berkeley pair that was really, really hot recently. I mean, just based on consistency, you're going to have Alan Rawls getting through a Ryan Smith. His next matchup is going to be most likely, hey, you know what? Maybe we get something crazy out of that next quadrant. You got Ian Cripps. You've got Vargas, who's been throwing really well. You got Avery. You got Anderson. That little eighth piece is really open to anyone, I think, Trey. There's a lot of people that could challenge Rawls in that third match. Coming down a little bit further, you got Batson. Where is the West? Where is Brevin Valdivia? I'd like to see him make a good run. And I think this is a runnable section. He's going to have a Bernasette early and then get through a Batson. Maybe Valdivia can make a run there. And in the bottom, that one's pretty clearly a Derek Holland to me. So I don't know, left side, it's kind of shaping up for another Alan Rawls' run if he does it. Otherwise, I kind of like Ryan Smith, or maybe you know what, Trey? Out of this left side, I say we're going to get a sleeper coming out of this left side.
I was just about to say the left side is the most winnable side of all the singles brackets. As far as I don't see anybody that's going to go through and absolutely dominate it. It could be Rawls again, but I mean it's anyone's game on that side. As we look to the right side, Matt Guy is your top seed, Kyle Malone your next seed. I think these are a lot more brutal. You got Shibner and Guy in the very top quadrant. You have Henderson, Wooten in the second quadrant. Those are going to be your heavy hitters. You have Malone, Jack Gore, even Mike Ferreira in the third. And then in the bottom one, you have Josh Holland and Alex Hicks. So there's a lot bigger names.
The right side is jacked compared to the left side.
It's a lot worse. So this is going to be one of those battle-tested sides, right? Whoever comes out of this side is going to have gone through the gauntlet in order to get there. So this one's going to be tough.
Sounds real fun. All right, let's go into bracket D. Anthony.
All right, bracket D, number 1. So we got Jake Gore. We saw what he did at National, number 1. Who's going to contest him if he's the same guy? First, he's going to have to go through a single. We don't know who's going to come out of the PDC. He's going to roll the first 2 matches. He's going to have to roll the first 2 matches. Nothing much really in the third match because we're talking singles. I mean, we've got a Derek King who's really successful in doubles. Maybe he squeaks out. I feel like it's kind of open between Thielen, Harvey, King, Cherney. I think it's Harvey or King, one of those guys coming out of there. But I think Gore has a pretty clear run to his 4th matchup where he's going to run into either Dylan Turpin. I've been looking down that list and I'm going, that's Dylan Turpin. I like Gore versus Turpin to get to the semifinal. If you're looking at the bottom, who's going to contest that? Man, how good has Logan Chamberlain been in singles and doubles? Honestly, when he came out, when we were looking at the Rookie of the Years, it was like, all right, I could see Chamberlain. I see you. You won a bracket. You won an advanced bracket at Worlds. I see you maybe as the 4th or 5th best rookie. Maybe you're going to be like a 35 to 55 seed in singles. This dude's absolutely killing it and blowing me away in singles. Interesting grip, interesting mechanic on how he's able to release the bag and still maintain that roll game. Very unique. It's almost balled up with kind of up on the top corner. He's really surprising me, and I'm really impressed with Chamberlain. Jamie Graham, where are you at, Jamie Graham? He's going to be in the very bottom. What does Jamie Graham look like at National number 2? If Jamie Graham doesn't make a run here at National number 2, I think it's fair to say he's falling. He's falling down the list. I don't know what's going on there, but just kind of looking at the list, it's going to be Chamberlain versus Jamie Graham in the bottom half of that one.
You also got a Kingfisher down there. Don't forget about that. All right, Trey, what do you got to add?
Back-to-back brackets in which I think the right side is disgusting. Mark Richards, Chris Kingsbury in the top right of the bracket. They'll play each other in the second game more than likely. We go down, then we get Jeremy Schermerhorn, Ryan Wiedenfeld, and Jeremy Frazier, who has been absolutely on fire recently. They're in our second section. On to the third, Hunter Thorne, Adam Hissner, and Tanner Halbert, and Alec Ryan, all within the same little small section. And finally, we wrap it up with actually, and maybe if you take away this bottom section, really your top hitters here, Curtis Haddix, who made that really deep run, but it was kind of felt like that was him at his ceiling. Brett Guy is your 6th seed. A little bit more open here in the very bottom section, but overall, I think this is it's a pretty tough right side. Richards may have one of his toughest games in the second one if he ends up playing Chris Kingsbury.
Yeah, I'm still holding on to, for some reason, I'm still holding on to Graham to really show up. We saw him come out this weekend. For those that weren't able to see him, he's actually changed his throw. He actually has a Maudlin step over now. So is that good or bad? I mean, if you have a top 4 or 5 player in the world coming in that's changing up their technique right now, I would say it's not good. But for me, Jamie Graham he's evolved his throw. He's done everything as a high IQ guy. I don't hate that he's changing his throw right now. So to me, coming out of National, we're either going to say, hey, Jamie Graham is back and the Maudlin step over is working, or we're going to say Jamie Graham is falling in the league right now.
To quote Anthony Ione, I don't like it. I don't like it.
I don't like it.
I think you change your throw, you're changing and back into the learning phase. You're out of automation, and I don't think that's ever a good idea. All right, moving on to our teams preview. We have 2 television broadcasts on Saturday, May 20th at 12:30 Eastern. It's going to be the Las Vegas High Rollers versus the Pennsylvania Ringers. Trey, thoughts on that match?
Yeah, this is a battle of winless teams.
A battle of defeated.
Battle of defeated. I mean, you have the High Rollers versus the Ringers, and this is a battle of getting out of last place. Now, the road to get there, in my opinion, of winless are 2 different routes, right? The Ringers, I felt like strategically, maybe they should mix things up a little bit more, maybe spread out their talent, see if they can steal a couple wins. The High Rollers, to me, have felt like just plain old bad luck. The High Rollers are one of the highest PPR teams right now out of the entire division, and they're 0-4. Wow. It's not making a whole lot of sense. I mean, when you look at a 4-team lineup, just win 4 games, and you're able to put Tanner Halbert, Cody Henderson, Hunter Thorne, Kobe Costanza, Alan Rawls, and Tice Cobb, Eric Zockline, Jay Dotson, you got to say to yourself, those should be 4 games in which I should be favored more often than not. Not to mention I get to add a Jeremiah Hector and a Carter Bennett, 2 players playing with a lot of upside. Danny Seals and Derek Singleton, who are veterans of the game, and then wrap things up, Vanessa Fillingham and Trey Baker. So to me, I think the High Rollers are kind of the team to watch here. The Ringers are kind of the hometown team if we're talking about, playing in the state of Pennsylvania. But the Ringers have chosen to load up 2 teams, right? If we look at their captains and then their first and second round picks, right? We get 4 of those players on 2 teams. We get Jacob Foreman and Matthew Creekiller, and then Justin Burton Jr. and Devin Harbaugh. My goodness.
Jeez.
Talk about outrageous. Most of the time I would say that's awesome. You're going to get 2 wins, but are you doing it at the expense of the rest of your team? So I'm looking at that Ringers team, telling myself, are we loading up the teams too much, or are we and trying to just guarantee you wins and you're losing the rest, or is that the right call? Regardless, I think it's going to be a great matchup. It's going to be clawing, trying to get this first win. And if I have to pick a game that I'm most excited for, I probably got to pick game 1, Tanner Halbert, Cody Henderson versus Matthew Creekiller and Jacob Foreman.
Agreed. Anthony, anything to add?
Yeah, you mentioned it, the team defeated. And if you kind of look at overall wins, it's pretty interesting. Obviously the Rollers with an extra matchup, they have some extra games, but they've won 35% of their games. The Ringers have won 42% of your games. If you rank that amongst all the rest of the teams, they're kind of middle of the pack or just below middle, but dead last with an undefeated situation in teams. But if I kind of just went match by match, it's really, really close. To me, that first game is a wash. You called it out. Halbert Henderson versus Creekiller Foreman. I think that's a wash. Game 2, a wash, in my opinion. Game 3, we're clearly going to give that one to the Ringers with Burton Jr. and Harbaugh together. Game 4, you got Hector Bennett and Hunt Edwards, another wash, in my opinion. Game 5 goes the other way. I want to give that one to the Rollers, I think, or the High Rollers. I think Rawls and Cobb get that one. And then the last 2, I think you split them. The Rollers win with Zockline Dotson, and the Ringers win with Altice Cobb. So this one's going to come down to the wire. It's going to probably be a 4-3 matchup when it's said and done.
Next up on Sunday, May 21st at 5:30 p.m. Eastern, Arizona Burn will take on the New England Woodchucks. Trey, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, this is an interesting one. You get one team in the Arizona Burn who has kind of stacked their team with a lot of players local to Arizona, and this feels like an Arizona-based team. On the other hand, you have a Woodchucks team that didn't do that, but they also picked some interesting selections when it came to the draft. And we talked about this, Anthony. We were very interested, for a lack of a better word, to see how some of these teams were selected and how these players ended up on this team. So this feels like another close one to me. Your heavy hitters on your Burn are going to be Moses Aswade and Corey Ballard, Derek Holland and Brandon Jones in games 1 and 2. Doug Zaft and Bill Hadley going to be coming in game 4. And then Ty Lopez and Jeff Reynolds in game 7. I find it interesting that they saved Lopez and Reynolds for game 7. Hopefully you get all the way to 7. And if they can, I think that favors the Burn. Over on the Woodchucks, teams I really like, Jacob Trzynski and Brent Smith. That's an example of really splitting up top talent, or with Trzynski getting Brent Smith, who has some high upside. Storm Hogue and Zach Shibner. Shibner's been throwing really, really well. If he continues to throw that way, it's going to make that second-round pick even more justifiable on the behalf of Jimmy Humans. Jimmy Humans and Kyle Malone deciding to play together as a team. They line it up. They'll play in game 6. So one instance of a top-level elite team here with the Woodchucks. Humans and Malone decide to stay together. If we go back to the other game, Zockline and Halbert both on the High Rollers not playing together. So just an interesting matchup. This one's, I think, another really close one. Both of those, I have both of these games, both these matches that we've talked about going actually a 4-3 split. So very evenly matched.
Anthony, anything to add?
Yeah, so on paper, you got a 3-1 in the Burns against a 1-2 in the Woodchucks. This actually aligns really well with my grades at the beginning of the season. The 1-2 Woodchucks, I gave a C+, and the 3-1 Burn, I gave a B. If you look at the win percentage, the Burn has won 75% of their matches. That's third in the rankings, and you got the Woodchucks down there at 42%. So on paper, Arizona Burn should take this one. But then when I look at the matchups, I'm not necessarily so convinced. I feel like it's a lot closer than what it says on paper. I think that first game, it's going to be super close, but I like Zasweta and Ballard over Cherney and Farrell. I think game 2 is a wash. It's going to come down to Jones and Smith. What do they do for their contributing partnership in that matchup? Game 3 is a wash to me. Game 4 is a wash to me. I think game 5 is close. I'm leaning towards the Woodchucks on this one with Lucas Jr. and Ballard. I think the Woodchucks get game 6 and then a wash in 7. So when you lay that out, I think another 4-3 matchup. I think it's just going to come down to who gets that one more win.
Well, that would be the best for TV, so I'm rooting for it either way. That'll be fun. We also have our ACL Cornhole TV streams on Saturday, May 20th at 9 a.m. Eastern. It's going to be the Sliders versus the Woodchucks. Also on Saturday at 9 a.m. is the Aviators versus the Ringers, the Colorado Timbers versus the Chicagoland Spinners, and then the Texas Bullybaggers versus the Virginia Cutters. Trey, any thoughts on any of those matches that are going to be on Saturday?
Yeah, we talked about the win list getting on TV. It just happened to be where it is, but on the streams, you can catch a matchup of undefeated teams, the Colorado Timber versus the Chicagoland Spinners. That's going to be an incredible one, all headlined by game 1 of that stream. Josh Holland and Frank Modlin against Mark Richards and Philip Lopez. So right out of the gate, it's going to be a fun one to watch. That's who I'll be watching on Saturday morning.
Anthony, any thoughts on any of those before we go into our hot takes?
Colorado guy, I'm excited where Colorado's at right now, and I actually graded them a B+ to start, but they're actually doing better. I think that they're looking like an A team right now, so I'll be pulling full Colorado Timber. I'm pulling for Colorado. Don't tell anybody.
All right, we know.
I won't tell anybody. I'll tell everybody.
You told everybody. It's okay. All right, Trey, you alluded to your hot take. Let's hear your single and double takes.
I think I'm going relatively pretty spicy here. So especially in singles. In doubles, I kind of mentioned it that I liked the path of how people were going. I am taking doubles national champions Tony Smith and Jacob Trzynski on the double side. For singles, I liked the path. I like the way this guy is playing. I am going 2023 Cornhole Mania singles champion Dylan Turpin.
Oh, snap. Oh, man, I love that.
He's due.
I love that.
He is due.
Anthony, hot take. Give it to
all right,
us.
I'm just going to call all my bracket winners out of doubles. I kind of really liked how those doubles brackets were looking at. Bracket A, I'm going to go with Hamilton and Kano after a close fight with Harbaugh and Morellis. I think that one's going to be a dogfight. Bracket B, I'm going to take Birchfield and Rawls. A tough run through Wooten and Thorne, and then Malone Humans. I'm going to go Birchfield Rawls. Bracket C, remember, these are hot takes. Bracket C, I'm going to go, this one's a little bit off for me from what I've been talking about in the past, but I'm kind of liking how Modlin and Bubenheim are looking right now. Richards and Lopez are in the same side of the bracket, but I'll go again. It's something a little uncertain right now about that partnership, specifically Lopez. Modlin, Bubenheim in bracket D, Smith, Trzynski.
We had 3 out of 4 the same.
Bracket C, you had something different.
I Grindersley Batson.
Love it. I still love that one.
And my doubles take is going to be Harbaugh Morellis for the win. I love that team. Love that team.
Partnership.
New partnership. I think they got it. I think those guys are going to make the win happen. All right, that's all we got time for. We will see you over in Erie, Pennsylvania this coming weekend. See you all next time.